Hey, thank you for joining us back for the Beth Beskin Show on this busy Saturday before Election Day on Tuesday. I am so excited about our next guest, Latham Sadler, who's running for U.S. Senate. Latham, are you here?
I am here, Beth. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? It's such a busy day, and I so appreciate your taking time off the trail. I'm looking at your Twitter feed right here, and you're everywhere.
We are. We got to be everywhere at once, but I'll tell you, we're still batting 1,000 everywhere we go. We were just up in Union County this morning, and everybody's fired up to get me elected because they want to defeat the Warnock-Abrams machine, and they know me being at the top of the ticket is the best way to do it.
Well, I'll tell you what. You're everywhere in terms of you've raised a bunch of money. Talk to the listeners about that. And I live in Buckhead, and there's Latham Sadler signs all over the place. So I think you do have a lot of momentum. I need to tell my listeners, I've got 3 favorite candidates in this race. We spoke to Gary Black. We're talking to Latham Sadler. Next, we will talk to Kelvin King, and I think all 3 of you would be great. There's 2 other candidates in this race who would be fine. And then there's Herschel Walker, whom everybody says is going to win, and I just can't even get it since he won't campaign. So, but I think you've raised what, Latham, $4 million?
We have. We've raised right at $4.2 million. I mean, really only 2 of us in this race have fundraised, and it's Herschel and me. We've out-fundraised. My campaign's out-fundraised all the other candidates combined besides Herschel.
Well, how have you done that? Because you've not been – I want to tell people a little bit about your background. You are a former Navy SEAL, and you worked in the Trump White House in a national security capacity, I think. You didn't go through the military academies. You went to all the Georgia universities, and in your 20s is when 9/11 happened, and you decided that you wanted to serve, and that's when you did this personal quest all in your 20s to become a Navy SEAL, which everybody knows how hard that is.
Well, it was quite the journey, and I tell folks all the time. I mean, it took me my 20s to get there. It was truly a miracle, Beth, that I made it through because I was the old man in my class going through training at 29 years old, and I broke my foot in Hell Week. And
oh my gosh.
Being a Georgia boy, the water tests weren't easy either. I was not a natural in the water, and I mean, so many miracles led me through. But what's fantastic is they used the heck out of me being a fluent Farsi speaker. I had already been to Afghanistan. I had backpacked in northern Afghanistan before joining the military and deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, and then managed the Black Ops portfolio as the director for intelligence programs in the Trump administration. And then to your question on fundraising, I mean, the reason we've had so much success in fundraising, it's the same reason that I haven't met a Herschel supporter that I haven't flipped. I mean, it doesn't matter where we are in this state. Good. I mean, we can be in Buckhead, we can be in Bainbridge, where my mother's from, or up in Union County, where we just were, and we're batting 1,000 everywhere we go because people want fresh blood in the United States Senate. I'm 39 years old. I'm the youngest in my race by far, but I've got the most experience to get up there day one and fight for us. And people also see that I'm the guy that will beat Raphael Warnock, and Herschel can't do it. So we've got to pull Herschel in this runoff on Tuesday. So that we have a nominee on top of this ballot that'll beat Warnock.
So when you talk about being an actual veteran, how do you feel about the news story of the day, which is he was puffing his credentials yet again with his work with a veterans organization? That's something that's in the paper today, I think.
It is, and we actually just sent a tweet out about it. I mean, it's so fascinating for me, Beth. I mean, I don't know what the deal is with Herschel. And, again, I say all this as a Georgia Bulldog that grew up admiring Herschel as a sports hero, and every other word out of his mouth whenever I've seen him speak, which isn't on the trail since he won't share the stage with any other candidates, and it's not on the debate stage either since he skipped all 5 debates. But
yet he says he's so anxious. He says he wants to debate Raphael Warnock. Well, if he's so anxious to debate, he needs to start now. So I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No kidding. No, you're exactly right. And then as far as this news story that just hit, I mean, I was blown away by this story that he grifted $331,000 last year from an organization that he claimed to be a veterans charity, and it's a for-profit organization that he took a $331,000 salary from. I mean, every other word out of Herschel's mouth out there is how much he loves the military. He's invested so much of his life in helping veterans with mental challenges, and here we are. I mean, it's truly remarkable. I mean, I don't know who Herschel Walker is anymore, Beth.
Well, why do you think that story just broke now? I was concerned that the press knew all of this and was going to wait and tell us about it after, hopefully, there's a runoff. And if after the runoff, if he's the nominee, which I'm hoping is not the case, for the reasons I've been through a bunch of times, mainly lack of respect to him for refusing to campaign. I think that that is such an affront to all Georgia voters. I think it's offensive. But I thought we would have to end up with Herschel Walker, the nominee, before we could find out all of these things. Why do you think the story broke now?
That's a great question because, I mean, you and I both know, I mean, they're sitting on so much right now as it relates to Herschel. It's almost like they've done this slow trickle to check the box that they're doing their job, so to speak. But, I mean, here's the bottom line about Tuesday. I mean, if a vote for Herschel Walker is a vote for Raphael Warnock, because Herschel Walker has no chance of beating Warnock. Warnock will kick his teeth in, and the ads are already ready.
How do you know that?
Warnock.
How do you know?
Warnock, I mean, because if you think about it, they're sitting on an opposition file that's a dream come true on Herschel Walker for Raphael Warnock's team. And if Herschel avoids a runoff,
right,
we are all going to wake up on Wednesday morning, brew our coffee, turn on the TV, and the ads with all the stuff in Herschel's background are going to be blasting out there because Warnock's out fundraising everybody across the country. He can afford for 6 straight months in that general election to put everything that's in Herschel's file, on screens, especially in front of suburban women, and then that'll be amplified by the media in full force. And we don't have a chance of winning this seat if Herschel Walker's on top of the ballot, and that's why folks need to get serious about this election.
Well, it's possible to respect Herschel Walker and his wife as people and remember his glory days as a Heisman winner for University of Georgia and respect that, but that doesn't mean you have to vote for him for U.S. Senate, and I don't think people should. I mean, you start out by reading his memoir, Breaking Free, which ends, I think, well, it doesn't go into any of the allegations of domestic violence, which are pretty documented out there. It does talk about his playing Russian roulette with himself with the revolver he bought that his wife didn't know about. I thought that was just the craziest thing I had read because he didn't say how many times, but it was more than one, clearly more than once. And I don't disparage mental illness. He has been very forthright about it. But when asked about some of these incidents, he says he can't remember. There are psychiatrists who say they don't think that's how it necessarily really works, but I don't question everything he's saying. I'm just saying that's not who I'm voting for U.S. Senate. Here's another thing, Latham, that I think is so weird. His ad that runs, on repeat all the time where he talks about his background, and he says, pretty much the line goes, I'm a kid from rural Georgia that's lived the American dream. He's 57 years old. He might be 58. How many 57-year-olds describe themselves as a kid? I am a kid. I was a kid. I'm not a kid anymore. I just even think that's weird.
It's truly remarkable, Beth. And he's actually 59 years old. He'll be turning 60, okay. and that doesn't really help much with bringing down the average age in the United States Senate, which is 64 years old. I mean, we've got to get fresh blood up there. I mean, this is not working out, and I tell folks all the time, Beth, I grew up respecting my elders, always have, always will. But we have got to have fresh blood in the United States Senate. At 39 years old, I'm gonna usher in a next generation of leaders. And the interesting thing is, it's the folks in their 60s and 70s that tell me the most. I'm not voting for anybody else from our generation. We had our chance. It's time for a new generation to step up, take the mantle of leadership, and lead this country back on track. And when you look at Herschel Walker, he doesn't help on that front, and we've got to look how serious of times we're in right now in this nation. I mean, we've got inflation that's rampant. I mean, a recession is right around the corner.
We might be in it.
We've got a candidate like we might already be in it. To your point, and we've got a candidate in Herschel Walker who, I mean, doesn't know the difference between the House and the Senate. Said John Lewis was one of our best United States senators. Got asked about the infrastructure package earlier this year and how he would have voted on it, and said it was an unfair question because he's got to see all the facts. And the interviewer's probably an Alabama fan. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, we need serious people to get up there and win this seat back, and get up there and get Washington in order and get our country back on track. And I'm the only one in my race that can make the case that I will beat Raphael Warnock, and I cannot wait to get on the debate stage with him and hold him accountable for the bag of goods that he sold Georgians. But also, I'm the only one in my race that was up there in the Trump White House for the first 2.5 years, advancing the right policy agenda for the country. And Georgia deserves to have the America First policy agenda back in Washington. We're experiencing the opposite of that right now. But Georgia also deserves to have a United States senator that actually has the experience at the national level advancing those policies. And so I check the two boxes that matter. I will defeat Raphael Warnock. I can't wait to do it. But I can also plug in day one as our next United States senator and fight for our state every day.
Well, I've been to the Senate debates. I went to one, I watched the other, and you are a very able debater. We have no idea about Herschel Walker because he was an empty podium no-show both times. And what could the possible rationale for that be? He's either afraid they're hiding him because of the missteps and misstatements you talked about, or he just doesn't give a rip and just wants to thumb his nose at all the Georgia voters. Like, you would think if he's asking to be one of our 2 U.S. senators out of respect for the electorate, he would show up and let us meet him.
Absolutely. And you know, the bottom line, Beth, is he's running an entitlement campaign as a celebrity that's enabled by the establishment. And, you know, he goes around bragging about his endorsement from Mitch McConnell and how they speak once a week and McConnell coaches them on what to say on policy. I mean, is that really what we want as the Republican nominee on top of our ballot when we're up against the Warnock-Abrams machine in November?
I would rather vote for people.
That is not going to get the job done.
I would rather vote for people that don't need to be coached about what they think about policy.
Absolutely, and I can promise to your listeners, I don't need anybody, Mitch McConnell or anybody else, to hold my hand.
Right.
As I'm on my views on policy and what I'll get done as our next United States senator.
Right.
And it goes back to Herschel's just a dream come true candidate for the left and Raphael Warnock because they know they'll mop the floor with him, and it could sink the whole entire ticket. And we could wake up the next day on November 9th, right after the election, as a completely blue state. And I refuse to let that happen, and that's why I'm in this fight, and that's why I have to beat Herschel Walker. We're going to take him into a runoff, Beth, on Tuesday. We're going to shock the world. And once I have him in that runoff, the odds flip in my favor overnight. Because as you know, in Georgia, in the statewide race, the number one spot in a runoff is cursed. We'll be exactly where we want to be at number 2, and then I'll beat him.
So tell our listeners, Latham Sadler, how to find out more about you. And I think we have one more minute. So
absolutely. Thank you so much, Beth. Well, my name is Latham Sadler. I know it's a different type of name. It's an old Southern name, so it's Lathamsadler. I'm the America First Next Generation conservative that can and will beat Raphael Warnock. The way you help out the most, you can check us out at lathamsadler.com. But the most important thing is please vote on Tuesday. Please encourage your friends and family to do the same, to vote for me, Latham Sadler. And if you've already voted for somebody else, I've had 1 or 2 people say, oh, my gosh, I voted for Herschel. I didn't know about you. My response to that is please find 2 or 3 of your friends and family who haven't voted yet and vote for me, Latham Sadler. And that's how we win this United States Senate seat back and get our country back on track.
You're a good candidate, Latham. That was a really smart thing for you to say. I campaigned for something in my past where there were 4 people in a primary, and I would go up to yards where there was a sign for one of my opponents, and I would be friendly and just say, well, if I'm in the runoff and that person isn't, I would like a second look. But where someone says, I already voted for your opponent, then just say, well, here's how you can help me. And so good for you.
Exactly. Thank you, Beth.
We may have a couple of more minutes. Latham, our next guest is not on yet, so I did want to ask you 2 things. One of the others in the race this week, Gary Black, said if Herschel is our nominee, he won't vote for him. Do you feel the same way?
You know, I found that situation to be really interesting, and from where Gary's coming from, I mean, he's been making the case as well that the bottom line is Herschel cannot win. Now, if heaven forbid, Herschel is the nominee, I mean, look, he's got my support if that's the case, because anyone's better than Raphael Warnock in my view. But we just can't put ourselves in that scenario because we're going to lose. And I think what it really shows, though, Beth, when Gary came out and said that, what it does in my mind is it fundamentally dismantles Team Herschel's case that they make all across this state, that Herschel is the only one that can unify the party. Gary Black saying I'm not going to support him if he's the nominee shows that Herschel's already divided our party. He's the most divisive figure we could have on top of the ballot against the Warnock-Abrams machine, and we cannot have that.
Um, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit distracted here, Latham, because our next guest is trying to call in and not able to get through. One more quick thing, you talk about inflation. I've loved the story you've said on the campaign trail about being one of the younger candidates, that you're still out there buying diapers, so you understand, the pain at the pump,
Absolutely.
or the pain at the pump, or at the grocery store. Or I just think that the cost of living is skyrocketing, and all of a sudden real people are starting to feel it.
That's exactly right, and you're right. I do share the story on the trail that my wonderful wife Melissa and I, we're young parents. We've got a 5-year-old, a boy that just turned 5, Bubba, and then another one, Marshall, that just turned 2, and we're still buying diapers for our youngest. And we've noticed the price of diapers just keeps skyrocketing. And who does that hurt the most? Lower and middle income Americans, the same folks that Raphael Warnock claims he cares the most about. And I'll tell you, I'm going to get on that debate stage. He's got that silver tongue, and he's a smooth debater, Raphael is, but I cannot wait to get on the debate stage and hold him accountable for that bag of goods that he sold Georgians. And he's not going to get away with what he got away with last go. He was Mr. Charming, ran the great ads, and had a bankrupt policy platform, and now we're seeing that it's bankrupt. And so, but we've got to have a nominee that looks forward to getting on the debate stage, has already debated with fellow Republicans. Herschel obviously has not. I cannot wait to get on the debate stage with Warnock. And Beth, and to your listeners, I am the guy to beat Raphael Warnock. Please vote for me, Latham Sadler, and I will not let you down. I will kick him so hard out of that seat, it's not even funny, and I will fight for everyone here in Georgia every day. This is a mission for me. As a young parent, I'm watching my boy's future just slip away into the midst, and I refuse to stand by and let that happen, and I will fight for my children, your children, and your viewers' children and grandchildren every single day as our next United States Senator.
Thank you, Latham. We now have our next guest on, so thank you for staying with us a couple of extra minutes, and get out there. And I know it's the last Saturday before Tuesday, and all the best, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Beth. God bless you.